All right, this was definitely not the second take for the introduction of this amazing podcast. Number 7 here with my dear friend Erik Eklund. He is an authenticity coach, a master public speaker, also doing master classes, workshops, and retreats around the world, helping people really show up authentically, expressing themselves authentically by first tapping into their inner, the roots, which you call it the roots, so that they can then own their story and live a life that's really aligned to themselves. At the end of the day, with this podcast, our goal is really to help you design your ideal life, and I feel and I know that Erik is truly embracing that from the very beginning. We talked about, what can you do if you are in an environment where you feel like you're conditioned, where you cannot really be yourself. How can you break yourself free from those patterns? We talked about vulnerably his upbringings as a black kid in Sweden, all the disadvantages he faced and how he turned that into his own superpower. We talked about women dating. We talked about, honestly, we talked about so many different things. We talked about how you can become a master communicator, how to get on stage and actually nail it. And yes, I would definitely recommend this podcast specifically to anyone who feels like they're a little bit stuck at the moment, someone who is very curious about showing themselves to the world in a way that's really honest with themselves. And unless there's anything else you'd love to share, we can dig right into the beautiful episode. Boom. Thank you so much for everything. It's been an absolute pleasure meeting you these last few months. We have not connected like extremely deeply, but I feel like I can always see you and
we
just
see each other everywhere.
Honestly, we do see each other a lot. We've never really like actually sat down and really connected, right? But I feel like I'm getting little pieces of yourself every time we see each other. I feel like we're very open people in general as well. And one thing that sparked my attention right from the beginning is that we arrived here and you're always noticing the little details, right? You said your background is in hospitality, and I heard like, how can some people put the cushion like this and not like this and not think about all these different things? And so I'm sensing that, that detailed oriented perspective is something that you also use with your clients, right?
Yeah.
And what the hell do you even do with your clients?
Well, let's say this, like Stephen Bartlett said recently on his LinkedIn, this thing of sweat the small details. And I fully resonated, because sweating the small detail doesn't necessarily mean that you're a perfectionist. There's a difference, there's a fine balance between being a perfectionist and giving it as much care about yourself or other people that you really do to really give it that quality that is there. So for me, when I'm sharing or inviting people, for instance, to talk about their stories, their fears, what they have been going through, and 3 out of 4 times somebody would cry talking to me. For me, that really matters that, okay, you feel comfortable. You must feel safe here. If I don't feel safe here with you right now, I'm not going to open up. And small things such as we're sitting on this nice chairs, the sun is out, instead of sitting downstairs, right? It's beautiful. It just feels like you give a shit about me. And I've heard clients honestly look at me in my face and just say, I feel that you see me. And that's my way of doing that.
So what do you do with your clients that you get them to cry?
What do I do?
Out of 4 times.
I'm asking that question that they think is so annoying. I'm asking the question that they often shy away from. I managed to tap into that moment, that part that unlocks that door that they haven't even been able to see. And then they go, oh my God, this is getting deep, this is getting intense. They're like, woof, this is getting... Yeah.
And the purpose of that is to really tap into your fullest potential, to express yourself fully, right? You call yourself an authenticity coach. You help people. Well, I'll let you say it. We saw each other the other day at the sauna at the cover, and I feel like you're one of the most eloquent speakers, at least I've met here in Barcelona. The way you express yourself. So, I'd rather you share a little bit more detailed.
Okay. Okay. In short, I encourage people to stand up for who they are by getting back to themselves, this is like me turning myself on part, but also being able to express themselves to the others so that the world actually understands who they are, so that they can start going out in this world, being recognized for exactly who they are, feeling just at peace with being there, and then being able to do what it is that they believe in, that they find meaningful, and just go for it without having to pretend or work their ass off to burnout rates to do it.
Why the hell is everyone pretending? Why is it so hard to tap into yourself? Is it because there's constant societal pressures around you, expecting you to be in a certain way, right? Like why can we not break free from the get-go?
Let me pause my camera for that one, because I have no battery for that. Beautiful question. Okay, beautiful question. Why? When we're coming from, so why are we pretending? Most of us, and let me speak for myself, I'm raised to do what my mom and dad told me to do until I was about 18 years old. I'm raised to do what my teachers told me to do. I had friends around me who were mocking me for being so skinny. I got hair on my legs super late as a teenager. So being called that you're not a guy, you're not a man as a teenager made me wanting to compensate. So I wanted to go to the gym and work out my muscles, right? All because I'm trying to fit in. I'm trying to be feeling that, hey, I'm somebody too. Don't forget me. And that made me a certified people pleaser. I was amazing at making other people look good so they can look at me and say, this guy, Until I turned about 30 years old. And
30.
yeah, and then I finally realized that spending my time and energy making sure that you feel as good as possible, putting myself last many, many times, is not getting me anywhere. It might get you somewhere, it might, but it's not getting the best out of you either. So why are we proving ourselves? Unsolved, unhealthy patterns from our past. Unhealthy patterns and beliefs from our parents, from our siblings and friends from our past. Looking around us and not being aware of what's being projected on us rather than what we are creating. And we, in our own humanity, want to fit in.
That's all. That's all it is.
Yeah.
That's all it is. I mean, I feel like everything we do is rooted in a desire to belong. Even if you are wearing the super basic t-shirt and you say, I don't care about what others think, you're still trying to portray yourself to the world in a certain way. But again, portraying yourself to others is still kind of like a reciprocal thing. Like people have to perceive you at the end of the day. And yeah, I feel like
there is a slight difference there though. Because for instance, I was dressing up, say, a week ago to meet a woman for a dinner. It was not really a date or anything like that, but just to meet another person for dinner. And I was standing at home and like, okay, what do I want to wear today? I want to wear something that's expressive. I want to wear I want to feel sharp today. I want to feel sharp. And as I was standing in front of the mirror and doing this, going back and forth between the, the
Closet and
wardrobe.
mirror, yeah.
Exactly. And I just realized, it clicked to me and say, see, Erik, this is the difference between doing it for yourself compared for her. Sure, I want to make sure that I'm showing up and looking smart and great in her company. But all my thought pattern was, what do I want to look like right now? I want to be sharp. I want to have that color. I want to be expressive today. Go back 5 years in my life and take all the other years up to those 5 years. I would be standing in front of the mirror and thinking, oh, this event, what's the restaurant like? What do I need to wear to fit into that restaurant? What's a suitable outfit for this meeting? Is it a date? Is it a business meeting? Oh, not too much. That one, oh, that shirt.
I'm going to memorize
then maybe
this
she
line
thinks
and then
that,
say this. And
like there's a whole different thing when you're thinking like that, because all your focus is on the place, her, what you're trying to do again, to fit in. Versus when I hit myself now and just like, I don't even know where we're gonna go. I don't know what type of meeting it is. I don't barely know her, but I want to look sharp. I want to feel expressive. And there you have that slight difference between when you do it for you versus when you do it to fit in.
And what made you go from one to the other? After 12 years of pleasing others, of not doing it really for yourself, did you hit rock bottom? Did you have a mentor? Did you join a course? What was it specifically that made you go through that transition?
Okay. What made me It happened in different steps, in different phases. First of all, it was that I was working for Louis Vuitton in Brussels, and I was exposed to a clientele who was excessively obsessed with how they looked and often put themselves in emotional and financial situations, very unhealthy ones, because of that obsession. I had team members that spent more money on discounted bags than on their own living, so they couldn't pay rent by the end of the month. I had clients that would be calling in or coming in and complaining because they need to return bags because they can't pay their living. All because they want to be someone special, to be liked, to be standing out for sometimes just one night. I don't know how many times there were, especially women, buying a bag, shoes, an outfit for a wedding, for a birthday, for one event, and then wanting to return it afterwards. That works in Zara or H&M, not at Louis Vuitton. So we were like, no, we're not going to take that. And they were fuming, of course, because they realized, shit, I cannot pay my rent because here I have put all the money here. And once I had this woman and she was screaming so much and my team was escalating into management, me. And I had this one of the days that I just couldn't take it anymore. I just said, ask her straight out, why did she buy it? So they asked, and she says, she's in tears right now. And she says, because I cannot afford it. No, I mean, that's why she wanted to return it. But why did you buy it? Because I just wanted to be special for one night. I was invited to an event of a friend, and she wanted to feel special for one night. But I cannot afford it. For me, that's just a clear blue sky. So you shouldn't have bought it. But she did. Because that one Louis Vuitton bag would mean what to her that night?
Feel recognized.
Mm-hmm.
Feel part of that elite.
And I don't know about you, but I have been that black guy who never fit in many, many times, and I was willing to climb fences to just be part of that group one night. And that's when I realized, I gotta do something because this is so off. I have this feeling here that just sits saying, you're so much more than a bag. You're so much more than a piece of biceps. But when people put so much value in that alone, they lose themselves.
Was being black something that made you please other people for a long time? Especially being black in an environment where in
Yeah.
Sweden so many people
Yeah.
are actually white.
That would be the full question. Would being black in a white society, or where most people were white, that triggered an extreme loneliness within me? And also because that, by being black, was seen as ugly, bad, disgusting, dirty. I remember, I can talk to some of my black collared friends who we go into supermarket, clothing store, and you have the security guards standing around. Since you're a kid, you know that security guard is following you. So you develop a sixth sense. You know that the security guard will have another eye in you in that mirror over there. So whenever I touch something, and I touched something at the cover the other day, there was somebody who had been forgetting his cell phone in the changing rooms. I noticed it. There come some people, some guys, nobody really did something with it. And I was like, somebody forgot his cell phone right there. And in me, there's an ingrained feeling saying, don't touch it. Because if I touch it, do you know what's going to happen? Back in the days, I would be pinned for that. I can still be pinned for it wherever I go in the world, but to not talk about the US. But I have this feeling right here that's just like, don't touch it, because if I don't touch it, it's not my fault. But I wanted to just take the phone, go with it to the reception and just say they forgot it. I did it in the end. But I had this super awareness that now I'm working with somebody else's cell phone in my hand. Make sure that it's super visible that I'm working here and I'm putting it there, and I know that they have a camera in there and I'm putting it there. This is stuff that, because I am black and grew up in a white society, I developed. It's a habit, it's a sixth sense right there. So yes, that made me very lonely, and it made me want to fit in even more.
And become the person you're today. And discover your path.
Yeah, that came later. I mean,
of course,
teenage
but I'm assuming after all these years of trying to please other people, of trying to belong and trying to be like everybody else, at some point you probably, you realize that, fuck, I'm just wasting my time here.
That's where that break came when I was in Louis Vuitton. First, I was seeing it around me, and they're just like, you know what, Erik? I have had to stand up for myself the entire life. I was forced to it. And then seeing now all these other people around me doing very much what I've been doing for so long, I'm like, I have to do something, because this is completely, in my humble, not so humble opinion, wrong. You don't have to prove yourself. I found myself in relationships, at work, with clients, where I'm feeling that I have to prove myself. When I started 6 years ago, it was worse. Today, I'm way better at it, but it's still with me.
There's so many things I would love to touch on, but one in particular, before we jump further, a part of having this feeling like you wanted to belong, you want the sunglasses?
No, it's good. I was just checking the clouds.
We're here in the beautiful terrace next to Ciutadella. It's May, beautiful weather. Barcelona is just wonderful. We have the mountains over here, Barcelona.
And the rain is maybe coming.
Maybe. Yeah. I think we still got some time. But apart from having this innate feeling of wanting to belong,
yeah,
did you feel like you were ever at a disadvantage for being black in Sweden, or even here in Barcelona, as a person that has actually now broken free?
have I ever felt that I'm being disadvantaged? Hell yeah.
I mean,
I was just like, I was sitting here thinking, should I give a political answer here? No, I'll just say it as it is.
again,
No.
like I cannot even conceive what you must have gone through during your childhood in Sweden. I'm just a white privileged boy, you know, from a good neighborhood here in Barcelona. Like I speak every local language here. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
let me put context to what I said. When I was younger, so I'm adopted, and when I was younger, me and my brother, we were like, oh, we want to change our names back to our birth names. So I'm adopted from Colombia, and my birth name is Tomas Martinez.
Tomas Martinez.
Yeah.
All right.
Mr. Martinez. I was like, ooh, that's so good.
I like it.
My mom and dad though said, yeah, Erik, I mean, you can do that if you want, but we really want you to know that if you do that, you will have a harder time getting a job. My name is now Erik Eklund. And how many times haven't I had this experience where I'm applying into a job? I even gotten jobs where they say, oh, we were expecting an Erik Eklund, this like Swedish blonde guy, you know, blue eyes, tall, Erik Eklund, and there's this, well, not so blonde guy coming in. And I mean, I don't know how many times that have happened. So keeping my name has definitely had its advantages, which I go back to, like, it's not, so with that I really want to say that it's not only just being black, it's just for those of you, or those of the people around us who have this thing of they're immigrants, they have foreign names, they are not part of the native culture of the country, so to say. Yes, there are disadvantages. And yes, I have had many disadvantages for being black, but also yes, I have advantages for being black.
And do you feel like the remote work era is kind of breaking those barriers to some extent, right? Especially if you're also self-employed, right? You're a coach. I feel like we're also, a lot of the people that are location independent have a higher likelihood of being more conscious, open-minded, well-traveled and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So do you feel like those barriers have kind of been broken over the last 6 years since you discovered your new path?
It's funny that you said that. Last week, Friday, even I had a conversation with another black guy here in Barcelona. And he said, yeah, you know, Erik, how many black guys are there here, really, that are not on the streets? Not that many. So, to answer your question there, it should be. But it isn't. It isn't. Even today, meeting several people. Oh, Erik, you speak so good English. You speak so good Swedish. Oh, you're so well behaved. You're so sophisticated.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I'm still receiving that today.
But in terms of your ability to do business or get clients in general?
And the question is if it's an advantage,
No.
or if it's just.
No, it's not about whether it is an advantage, but whether this disadvantage has, you know,
kind of dissipated a bit.
Yeah, dissipated.
Okay. Yeah, it has definitely. It's lower today. It's definitely. It was crazy before. So has this remote area helped? Hopefully, but. Like, no, let me just say it. No, it's not. If you're an immigrant, if you're an expat, even if you're an expat, you have a hard time. If you're an immigrant, you have a hard time. If you're black, you have a hard time. If you're gay, lesbian, transgender, you have a hard time. Sometimes when I'm thinking about it, it's just like anyone who's an entrepreneur or in the whole startup scene and happen to be black, or not to say it, a black woman. Oh my God, you have to work 300 times harder than anybody else.
And so in your website, you share that you help people show up authentically and to express themselves fully according to who they are.
Yeah.
So how have you taken something has put you in a disadvantage and leverage it to be fully yourself and to really maximize your fullest potential?
The true answer in that is in first having the guts to look in my story, to own my story. That's why I have that tagline there, that it wasn't until I really embraced my own story of being adopted, being black, being bullied, experiencing racism, but also fighting against that from how I did it within my family to within my classmates to traveling the world. Once I started to share my true story and open up about those parts that doesn't sound so flashy, they are not show-offy at all, right? That's when people really started to pay attention. That's when I started to realize that, oh wait, there's no shame in my story. I'm okay. Actually, like, my story is really powerful. That's how I started. Like, when I started slowly, but gradually, share my own story. That's how it came. I didn't plan it. It just came that way.
I've also, as a kid, you have your traumas, your experiences that shape your insecurities and blah, 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 all these things that we all know about.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody has insecurities, everybody has their traumas, even if they don't realize, it's often it just creates certain patterns of behavior and all these different things. And so one thing that really helped me in the very beginnings of my personal development journey and just becoming the person I am today was just owning my insecurities, not hiding them in a way. But I don't remember what I did to actually take that step forward, but I'm sure you see this pattern over and over with your clients. What is something someone can do to fully accept who they are, to fully own their background, their story, and take those first steps?
Be very curious of what, let me put it this way, right? I see many people today, and they talk about authenticity, for instance, and they talk about it as a tool, as a strategy, as a method. So they say, now I'm going to be authentic. Oh, I'm going to be authentic today, so I'm not going to wash my hair. Now you're trying it. Now you're working it to be authentic. That is not authentic. So the more you're trying to be that, the less you are. So how do you do it? Find your own voice. That would be the first thing I would say. Have your own opinion. Have your own belief. Say what it is that you feel about something. Express your emotions. So if I bullet down this, find your own voice. Express your emotions. Connect to what drives you. That internal driver that just sits there and has been with you for so many years. Start there. Just be curious about that is. Like, what is that? And be super curious about what may block you, what may you not know. To give an example, I was watching a movie one day, and in the movie there was this woman saying, it was the movie The Shack, and the woman says, who do you still have to forgive? And somehow that question just stuck to me, and I was like, I don't need to forgive somebody. Like, I'm fine, I'm living my life. Wait, do I have to forgive someone? And it just sat with me, and then immediately the answer came, your mom. I'm like, but I'm fine with my mom. the answer came, no, your birth mom. I was like, oh. Suddenly it was like a zigzag puzzle just fell into place in front of me right there. Because I have struggled having relationships with women, trusting them. Because I've been always thinking they will leave me. Abandonment is my greatest fear. Because I was adopted. And I wasn't even aware of that I was walking around having resentment to my birth mom. So if you really want to show up authentically, what I'm trying to tell you with that little metaphoric story there is that being super curious and open-minded to that there will always come things that you can learn about yourself, what may be a block for you. When you're saying like, no, I'm fine, that's a block. Is there maybe something in here that is true? Well, now you're moving close to really showing up as your authentic self.
I love what you said about, I actually read this book. It was the first, I love self-help books. I really do. I feel like I've gotten into like deeper things over time, into like things like philosophy as well, into, I don't know, just other things. But I feel like, you know, before my reading career, I used to hate reading. I hated it. And there was this book that I read it back in 2018. This is a Bible, to try to understand how to get more women.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Well, by whom?
Mark Manson.
Okay.
He's the author of
Yeah.
The Subtle Art
I
of
thought it
Not
was
Giving a
like
Fuck.
Marie Forleo or someone. They were
Yeah.
also writing that, yeah.
And you know, especially when you're a teenager, still in school and everything, you're trying to figure out this whole game and everything. Okay, what do I need to do? Okay, your first hypothesis is I need to get stronger. So you start hitting the gym. And it's like, okay, but it's still nothing is really changing. Maybe this one girl, okay, like tested my bicep and stuff, but that's about it. So it's like, okay, maybe you need to drop this smart pickup line so that the moment we get into a conversation, I drop it and she's gonna like me. And you know, I really became very curious, you know, how to perfect the game, how to understand better social dynamics and everything. And I came across this book. I can't believe I'm sharing this here, but anyways, it was Models How to Attract Women Through Honesty. And this book for me was a huge, so powerful for two reasons. One, it was the first time I actually read a book from beginning to end, actually devouring it, which made me realize that you should not be given books. You should find your thirst and then find the book that's going to satisfy that thirst, right?
Yeah.
And look for answers. And that's how I've always gone about reading, and that's why I love reading. I have so many questions now, and I'm trying to always look for answers. But the best thing about that book was that, you know, as the subtitle says, attract women through honesty. And there's these three pillars which were groundbreaking for me, which were honest lifestyle, honest action, honest communication. And honestly, the book was not even, it touched about, you know, like maybe some things that I could have sought in that moment, but the general thesis was you have to be the best version of yourself and focus entirely on yourself. Because then you're going to attract people, women, or whatever people are looking for, that are genuinely attracted to who you are.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to be needy and trying to satisfy other people. And so those three pillars were, you know, honest lifestyle, which is how to live an authentic lifestyle. That got me thinking, and that's what got me that same summer to plan a trip to Morocco, a backpacking trip. One summer afterwards, that's when I did my first trip in Brazil, in Australia, and that's really how the ball started moving. Honest action is, you know, taking action. If you see someone you're interested in, you know, go
up to
and
them,
and be true to yourself. If you really, obviously, way easier said than done. I'm not here walking through the streets of Barcelona seeing some
Oh,
good-looking
come
ladies
on.
and just like, hey girl,
Hey,
¿qué pasa?
how you
¿Todo bien?"
doing? How you doing?
But the other one is honest communication, and it's fully expressing yourself, not trying to say things that are going to please others and, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. And so that those three pillars really marked me a lot. And I agree, it's about really becoming true to yourself, because then everything just flows. If you have a river and it's stuffed with like branches and stuff, and like the river is not flowing, it's just, you got to remove all of that, and then you can be fully authentic, and then you're going to flow.
Yeah.
Really.
No, I like it. I like the part. I mean, between guys, right? I think many can talk about the topic of women and also the topic of sex as very good references and indicators of how authentic we really are. And I can say the same thing about the opposite sex, of course, that they can talk amongst themselves and also between themselves, really. How comfortable do we feel about sharing these thoughts and emotions with each other? 100%. Oh my God, there's so much stigma around just this one question. Who's paying for the date? Who would you say? Are you going to give a smart answer now?
It's a tricky one. Depends also on the person.
Just say what you say what you think.
I think first of all, I think it really depends. In general, if I was in a relationship with someone,
Yeah.
I would try to go for that 50-50, but instead of splitting every single bill and saying like, oh, you owe me 728 euros, just like, okay, I got this one and you get the next one. I got this one and then you get the next one. And then you actually have that exchange where you're giving the other person, the value, or, you're doing that little treat, right?
Okay.
If it's a first one and I see that there may be a second date, I may pay for the first one. Or honestly, what I do many times is that we go for drinks and then I pay the first round, she pays the second round, something along those lines.
This brings me back to the first point we talked about, proving ourselves. Because for me, there's this thing here. When there's an expectation on the table, I'm not going in there. Not again. Been there too many times. Oh my goodness. I'm not here to prove you that I'm a gentleman by being able to pay the bill. That's my humble and also humble opinion again. That's me. If this is how you value gentleman, being a chevalier, a man with manners, then fine, that is your way of doing that. I have many other ways of showing that. I have more this sensational feeling to say to you that, if I'm feeling having a great time right here, and I'm in the vibe, in the flow, I am so happy and more than happy to take up the bill. I can do that. I can do that for you, a friend, a date, or a partner. But when it comes to an expectation on the table, that's when I start to say no.
Do you think that's what's getting in the way sometimes? Having the expectations in the way of being your fullest authentic self?
You got exactly the point why I brought it up. Because when there is then expectations, when we're living in relationships which are very conditional, there are expectations, a lot of expectations on the table, we are not being able to show up authentically. When we are working in an environment filled with expectations, we can't show up authentically. When we are in our own lifestyle trying to be or walking around with a lot of expectations on other people and on other things, we are not showing up authentically either. See the pattern?
And that's what connects it to the beginning of this conversation of what makes it so hard to break free.
Because that is literally what we're being taught through our upbringing, but looking around us, listening to other people, and most of us are not curious enough to wanting to say, hey, but is that my way of doing things? Is that what I value? Is that what brings me most, feel the most aligned to who I truly would like to be? I know I'm doing this, and I can even see why I'm doing it, but is that what I really value? To give you an example of this, I had a relationship and she really didn't like that I talked to other women. So I started to really phase out my communication with other women. As soon as there were other women around me, I started to be very aware of what I talked, how I positioned myself, and so forth. Because I didn't want to make her any uncomfortable, right? For some, that sounds amazing. Like, oh my God, yeah, you showed her that you really cared. But what do you think happened to me? Was I being Erik? Was I getting the best out of me? Just because I can talk to other women doesn't mean that I am flirting with them, that I want to get into bed with them. It means that I'm maybe just having as a friendly conversation with them as I'm having with you right now. But it is her who having an unsolved pattern in her of, control, jealousy, insecurity that she then projects on me, that I'm taking on, and I'm allowing that to go so far that I'm adapting my behavior.
How do you change your behavior? You may realize that you're having, you've fallen into this pattern, right?
You mean me there or her?
In general.
Okay.
You have been conditioned, right? You know that you're not being fully authentic. But sometimes you've already created all these bonds with so many different people, and you're Erik. You're this person, that people expect you to be in a certain way.
Yeah.
How do you break from that? Because most of the time people realize that, okay, this is maybe not my authentic self, but oh my God, like if I show myself authentically, like people are maybe not gonna like me. People are gonna be like, "Who the hell are you?" Like who do you think you are, right? Even though you really are that person. How do you do that?
There's one exercise that's called the primary question. Super powerful. And to put that into context, I've been chasing this guy, David J.P. Phillips, back in the days to work with him and his team in Sweden. I chased him for about half a year. I really wanted to be part of his team. Finally, I get invited to their summer party. I'm the only one who's new into that entire group, about 80 people. And I'm there, I'm being new into the team that I know that the next day I will have an evaluation talk to see if I fit in to the team or not. So I'm there the whole day before, during the party, just having a sip of wine, talking politely with everybody, trying to really behave and integrate, really I'm going to bed that evening and thinking to myself, shit, what do they think? Did I do a good job? And right there, Erik, what did you feel? Did you do a good job? What did you feel about them? Are these people that you would like to work with? And as I'm sitting there in this room, I'm like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that. That's just true. So the next day I'm having an evaluation talk. The feedback from David is like, I don't really know, because you feel a bit stiff. You don't really feel so. I mean, my team is very authentic, and we are really human in our way, and you felt like you were very ding, ding, ding. Of course, because that was how I behaved the whole evening, the night before. Because I tried to fit in. All I was concerned about was what they were thinking. So when I switched that question around to say, but wait, what do I think? That primary question, what do they think, versus what do I think, change the game. So when you are living in this situation, so you can just reflect on your own self. What's the primary question you're living right now? What does she think? What do they think? What do they want? Turn it around. How do I feel? How do I like this right now? Other examples of that question is, oh my God, why do I do so wrong? What did I do wrong? No. What did you do amazing? What worked out really well for you? Turn that primary question around and just master this primary question, and you will see your whole life changing.
I think also what really helps is just completely, doing a complete reset of your environment. Obviously, that's very easy. Sounds very easy, but that's very hard. But I actually think it is quite easy, and this is how.
That would be the second thing I would say, this thing of change your friends or change who you're hanging out with.
Go travel.
Yeah.
Even if it's just half a year or 1 year.
So but it can also be a super shock to your whole nervous system, and many people do it. I call it the Bali syndrome.
The Bali
the
syndrome.
Bali syndrome. You go to Bali, you stay there for a couple of years, or maybe sometimes just a number of months, and you find yourself.
Yeah, of course.
And
You
then
don't
you
want
come
you don't
back.
want to just then come back as a tool. Well, actually, what happened to me, I think there was one moment in particular in my life where I, was a specific person, left, and came back as a new person.
Okay.
And it was not Bali, it was not Australia, or it was not Brazil. I was actually 15 years old.
Okay.
When I grew up as a kid, I was the class clown, the troublemaker, always getting in trouble, like
Yeah, I understand that.
all the time. I actually did a lot of introspection. Actually, once with one hypnotherapist, we went deep into my childhood, and a lot of it was, wanting to please others.
Yeah.
Not so much because I was not confident in myself. I was kind of always the cool kid in school, always
Yeah.
played sports, but it was just a genuine desire to add value to people's lives, make people laugh, right? But I always, didn't care about school, one, so I had bad grades, and then because I was making all those jokes, people perceived me as stupid.
Yeah.
The system perceived me as stupid,
Yeah.
right? And so that really got into my identity in a way. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, like I may actually be not that smart, you know what I mean? And then ninth grade came about, I almost repeated, was one exam away from like actually repeating, and I was like, I literally 1 point above the mark that I need. It was crazy. And my parents were like, Mark, like, I think it would be nice if you took a semester abroad, like a whole year, and I ended up going to Boston in 10th grade. And I think two things happened there. One, being in a totally new environment made me grow in many different ways. It gave me an opportunity to think about what kind of people I want to surround myself with, what do I want to do, constantly being out of my comfort zone, made me grow step by step. The second thing is I fell in love for the very first time, 15 years. And I was so in love that I was committed to going back to the United States to study there and get back with my first girlfriend. We're not together, by the way. And I still had 2 years of high school to complete.
Right.
And so suddenly I had to flip my mindset completely and be like, I need to get good grades. I need to be good in school. I need to do all these different things. I think also the responsibility that I acquired, from that year abroad really helped me as well. But I came back suddenly being a pure A student.
Yeah.
Obviously some B's and some C's from time to time as well. My last semester, once I got into university, I just did not give a fuck after that at all. But everybody always talks about the Mark before and after Boston.
Yeah.
And I feel like that kind of gave me an excuse, right? I was gone for that year. Instead of now one day, after a night of looking at myself in the mirror and giving myself a pep talk that I'm going to change, and then suddenly coming back the next morning to school and being that's just weird. That just feels unnatural. You know what I mean? So maybe that also is a possibility as well.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, you asked this question like, how do you break this pattern? When you know that you're not being that person you really want to be, you can feel it, that you can do more, you're better, this is not you. I mean, one of the most powerful ways are, next to asking yourself this kind of coaching questions, start hanging around with different people in different environments. Absolutely.
100%.
It's super
Join the
simple.
Charisma community. Applications are open now.
Sign this form.
No, but actually, I mean, in a way, I think that's one
It's
of
true. It's true.
the like less obvious value, like things that are going to really add value to your life. That's why also you join maybe the cover. People join Soho House. People join specific meetups.
Absolutely.
I feel like we've had a very interesting conversation.
Is this one still on? Yeah, probably.
Yeah. I hope it is. Let me just double check.
I imagine if it hasn't captured anything.
We have to restart. Oh my God.
Yeah.
There was one last thing I wanted to talk to you about, and it's public speaking. I feel like from the people I've met here in Barcelona and based off what I see on social media and stuff like that, I feel like you have really nailed down the art of public speaking. also just the way you communicate, always super, just the words you use, the pauses you make, like just feels very flowy. I'd love to finish this beautiful podcast with what are the top tips you can give to someone who is struggling with public speaking, maybe the anxiety of standing in front of a big crowd, or just someone who just wants to take the public speaking to the next level?
Outline for yourself what are the most scarily exciting outcomes that you would get to experience by mastering your public speaking skills, by excelling in your communication. What would that be? So it's all about being able to put a very compelling vision to your fears. Like standing in front of people and in front of a camera and being seen by everybody and putting yourself out there on social media and standing in front of a big crowd of people is not pleasant. I wouldn't say it's pleasant today either for me, but it's exciting. And I get this opportunity to share my voice, my message to the world, and it feels very thrilling and exciting. But for everybody that is struggling with that, it's because they already have, and I think anybody who's listening now is like, the negative outcomes. You know your fears. Oh, I don't want to be seen like that. Oh, I don't want everybody to look at me. Or, you can list it. Replace that list with a positive one. You have an already very negative vision in front of you. We need a compelling vision. That's one. Another one is work on your connection to yourself. Nobody in the world is an inspiring person who's a complaining, negative, and self-proclaimed person who just walks around and talks about her or himself. There are those out there, but they are not the most successful public speakers or communicators. So connect to yourself is absolutely my second tip to master your communication. The third, if I give you a third tip, is reach out to someone like myself. No, but reach out to somebody. Surround yourself with somebody who is good at it, and just soak it up like a, swamp. Like get it.
Get it, boy.
Yeah, just get it. Like all that juice that they're already doing, just look at it and you're like, oh my God. I didn't get here because I suddenly woke up one day and learned how to communicate. My first language is not English. I was shy as a boy. And yeah, I was the only one so long in my life that I was really afraid of standing out.
I think it's weird to have someone who has been good at public speaking from the very beginning.
Yeah.
A lot of people tell me, oh, Mark, you're so good in front of the camera. Wow, you're public speaking. First of all, with the camera, the amount of takes I make behind every single video is absurd. One.
Okay.
It's like, I don't know, now I do like these weekly learnings of the week.
Yeah.
And it just looks like it's so great. But I'm just like speaking and then I was like, oh fuck, that sounds stupid. And I just repeat off of the last part, and then like I build the sentence as I go. And then I just cut it, and so it's really nice. The other one is I was terrified of public speaking until I launched my charisma. I did my MVP doing retreats. I hosted, entrepreneurs, creators in Airbnbs for 1 to 2 weeks in different parts of the world. We would co-work from there and have amazing experiences afterwards. And 99% of my worries leading up to that first experience was, oh my God, I'm going to stand in front of this crowd. My lungs are going to get super tight.
Yeah.
They're all going to see I'm this little boy here, like just with zero credibility. I was terrified. I did a hypnotherapy session, which really helped me. That's the one I mentioned earlier. But I feel like there's many things that I've learned as well. I'd also love to share my little tips there. One is interpret your anxiety as something that is getting you ready for battle, not as a bad thing, right? Now I've come to appreciate, good, my heart is pumping, okay, that's good, I'm ready. My body is getting me ready for battle. Let's get it.
Yeah.
The second thing I do before I jump on stage is slowing down my breathing.
Yeah.
Just what helps me slow it down very much is, imagine you have and Jake from Show Up actually showed me this, but imagine you have a finger under your nose and try to breathe as slowly as possible, as slow as possible, to the point where you don't even feel your breath.
Mm.
Then take your finger out, and that's how you should breathe before.
Mm.
It's going to slow you down.
Yeah.
And then finally, once you get on stage, right, you're nervous, you're all like super excited, you want to jump and you want to get ready to talk. And what has happened to me many times is that then I run out of breath. So be very intentional at the very beginning about, speaking very slowly.
Mm.
And one thing I also include in there is I show my appreciation for the opportunity. Right? It's not something I have memorized beforehand. It puts me in a different mindset, of more of a gratitude mindset, right? I'm just like, guys, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. And blah, 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 whatever else comes to that. And I'm sure there's some other ones, but I think this is...
But actually, to follow up there is, to really answer to this question, do you have? Consider us asking, so what is it that makes us poor communicators? What is it? What's in the way for us to be amazing public speakers and communicators? Okay, get a stab at it. What do you think? What would you say? Why are we poor? Why are we hesitant? Why are we reluctant to it?
Why am I poor at public speaking? Why
would not you perhaps, but the person that is struggling. What is common reasons why people struggle as communicators today?
Because they're worried about their potential anxiety. They're worried about a potential bad outcome that hasn't even happened yet.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I think that's the majority of the things.
Okay, so you would say that people like, okay, I don't know what to say.
That's, at least for me, personally, that's what kind of... I would have public speaking engagement in 1 week and already be terrified. My heartbeat was pumping a week before, and then you notice yourself, with your heartbeat rushing, and then you're thinking, oh my God, if I'm already nervous and I'm not even on stage yet, I'm gonna fuck this up. No doubt about it.
Yeah. And with that, it says, because you gave super techniques that can be used, say, the day of or the day before or days before, right? But when people walking around and they're saying, you would say like, hey Erik, I have this beautiful opportunity to pitch yourself as a business or something, and you go, no, I'm not doing this at all. At this point, none of those techniques would ever play in. We're not at that point yet. So what can we do to help those people right there that are just like, I don't really think I don't want to do it, not me. Public speaking, not for me. There I would like to go and give people this nudge to start. It starts there, right there, when you get that invitation, when someone invites them and etc., etc. First, it's not about you. And that's the one message I really want to give to anybody who's thinking of this. When you're being invited to give a talk in front of a camera for somebody else's podcast or whatsoever, it is not about you. And it's not about you either. It's about whoever is listening right now. What do you want to tell them? When you asked me questions today, and I pause sometimes to give an answer, I was thinking, where was I at that point in my life? What have I experienced myself? What I've been asking myself? What has been helpful? What could help somebody else out there? So with that shift of focus from you to them, you suddenly go from, no, I don't want to, that's not for me, I cannot do that, to, wait, what could help somebody else? What would be helpful for that person to hear? And suddenly, you're shifting your entire energy into appreciation, sharing, contributing. And then we're tapping into all these beautiful hormones of oxytocin and serotonin that's going to take over the adrenaline and dopamine in you, and you're just a whole different being.
And a pre-step is first tapping into your potential, owning your story,
Good
and
wrap
then,
up.
and then you're ready to give back to the world.
Yeah.
But
Good
yeah.
wrap up, Mark.
Boom. Thank you, Erik. Really,
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate. Really enjoyed this conversation. Where can people find you?
Best way to find me is actually on LinkedIn or Instagram. Actually, LinkedIn is my number one. So Stories of Erik, or Instagram Stories of Erik. That would be the best way
Erik
to
with
find me.
K.
Erik
Like
with a K.
K with
Stories of
charisma.
Erik, as in charisma.
Woo.
Yeah. Oh no. What's the best way to find me? At the event next week.
All right. I don't know if I'm gonna edit this so quickly. I'll get my editor.
Sliding that one in right there. No, but the best way to really the best way to find me. Tinder.